sorry. That was Je de Vivre by Charles Gounod from his opera Romeo and Juliet. And the first lines translate to, I would live in this dream. And it's interesting that I'm talking to you about dreams, because I am every insurance company's worst nightmare. You might ask why. Demographically, I'm just what actuaries are salivating for. I'm 20-something. I have good medical history. I exercise every day. I eat well. But on October 26th, 2009, I had a double lung transplant. It's a little surprising. I'm still surprised by it too. But my journey as a Kaiser patient started long before that. It kind of started before I was born. My grandparents came to the United States from war-torn Europe with nothing, and when they settled in the Bay Area. And Kaiser was their healthcare provider. My mother was born in a Kaiser hospital, as was I, and almost all of my siblings. One was born when he was out of town, so he wasn't. But insurance. I remember my grandfather, the Hungarian one, who was in the government, lamenting the state of healthcare in the United States, and he was saying how terrible it was. And I said, Dee, I don't know what you're talking about. Kaiser is so wonderful. And he said, Charity, that is the problem, that not everyone has Kaiser. And that I could understand. But I understood it even better when I turned 20 years old. The year before, I had gone to Europe to start my career as an opera singer. It was my first time living alone. I was living in Budapest, and I was traveling, and I was performing. Life was pretty exciting. I came home for a visit, and I went to my doctor's for a checkup. It was a new doctor. Her name was Susan Wells. She listened to my heart, and I was performing. Life was pretty exciting. I came home for a visit, and I went to my doctor's for a checkup. It was a new doctor. Her name was Susan Wells. She listened to my heart, and she ordered an EKG. I remember sitting in the examination room and thinking to myself, you should either be really flattered because she was talking about me in the hallway, or you should be really concerned. She came back, and she told me that she thought I had a condition called idiopathic pulmonary hypertension, or PH, which is caused when there's a thickening in the endothelial lining of the lung, making it difficult for your lungs to absorb oxygen and making the right side of your heart work overtime, causing what I call the reverse Grinch effect. My heart was 3.5 sizes too big. Physical activity becomes increasingly difficult, and usually after 2 to 5 years, you die. She told me that I had an appointment with a specialist later that week. And I'm going to tell you, if you're going to be diagnosed with a critical illness, Dr. Christopher Wang and Richard Stelzner are the men you want to go. Thankfully, Dr. Lang and the other specialists I went to see both agreed it was okay for me to sing. But if I was going to sing, I needed to make trade-offs. I grew up in Denver, Colorado. It's a mile high, and I lived there with my 10 brothers and sisters and my 2 adoring parents. But the altitude exacerbated my symptoms. So I became a Kaiser Mid-Atlantic visiting member, and I moved to Baltimore. I enrolled in a study at Johns Hopkins Hospital, and I started going to a conservatory nearby. We're not really big on fear in my family. It's just not something we do. But I was scared. I went back to the United States, and I had another heart catheterization. And this time my doctors told me that I was not going any further than a flight for life from my hospital. I was one sick cookie. I kept on performing here and there, but as my physical condition deteriorated, my voice wasn't as good as it used to be, which didn't make me particularly happy. My doctors wanted me to get treated for transplant. I don't know if you know about your army of transplant coordinators, but they are one of the most remarkable group of people that I have ever come across. I have worked with Libby Griffin for the past 7 years, and she is a saint. And she would hear about my prognosis. She'd been working with transplant patients for years. And though she could have been like, Charity, stop being an idiot, just get the stupid transplant, she was incredibly patient and helpful to not only me, but my entire family. And so she sent me and my mother to Cleveland, where we waited for our appointments. And I finally decided to take Dr. Wang's advice and Dr. Burgess's advice and go to Cleveland to start the agonizing wait for a transplant. But the next morning at 5 a.m., I got a telephone call from my doctor in Cleveland. They had mice, and it was a match. And they were from Texas. And everybody was really happy for me. But me, because despite their challenges, I spent my whole life training my lungs, and I was not particularly enthusiastic about giving them up. Next 13 and a half hours when the surgery took place, I flatlined twice. 40 quarts of blood were infused into my body, and my surgeon said that in his 20-year career, it was among his most challenging surgeries. Over the next 2 weeks, they left my chest open. You could see my oversized heart beating inside. I imagined. But when nurses take their lunch breaks to come and wash your hair and braid it, or when doctors stay with you through the night just to make sure that you make it through, or when you have a team of people who care about you in Colorado, who make sure that wherever you are, you'll have the medicine you need, you'll have the medical care you need, and you'll have the machinery you need to make sure that you make it to the next day. Or when you have a doctor like Christopher Lang, who I can call at any time of day, and I know he'll pick up. He won't only pick up, but he'll say, what's wrong now? What do you need, and how can I get it to you? That's not insurance. That's health care. And that's what's lacking in America today. And that is why I am so profoundly grateful to be part of the Kaiser family. Because my doctors realized, like I realized, whether it's by a Mack truck or cardiac arrest or faulty lungs, that happens. You're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're gonna die, you're all gonna die, and so am I. But that's not what life is about. Life is about living. And just because we have a medical condition, it doesn't negate our human condition. When people are allowed to pursue their passions, doctors will find, and my doctors have found, and this last summer, when I was back in the Colorado Rockies, where I hadn't been for an awfully long time, singing and dancing and jumping and playing with my mother and my brothers and my sisters and my grandmother and my nieces and my nephews, I couldn't help but think about all of those doctors who had helped me to get back there and who had watched over me to make sure that I didn't only receive medicine, that I received care that would help me to live a meaningful life. And I also thought about my doctor who told me that I couldn't sing. And I wanted to tell her something that my doctors had taught me. That we have to stop letting disease divorce us from our dreams. When we do, we will find that patients don't just survive. We thrive. And some of us might even sing.